Well, folks, 2025 is going to be the year of Disney for us. Why? Because my wife, who said at one time lightning lanes weren't worth it, she was only going to purchase it once because we had a limited time at Disney. Two, she said 1 year, we're going to get Park Hopper because we've only got 3 days. I'm never going to get it again. Now, every year since she's done one of those two things, we have had lightning lanes, Genie Plus, now MultiPass, and Park Hopper. This year, she decided to get annual passes. So we are going to explore whether or not annual passes are worth it for out-of-state, non-Florida resident guests. Hey folks, welcome to the Down the Road Travel Channel. My name is Will Van Winkle. It is the crack of dawn, and we are about to head out on a Disney trip from Nashville, Tennessee, just for the weekend. We just recently bought annual passes, so we're going to make several trips over the year to see if the annual passes are worth it for an out-of-state resident. You get certain perks, you get discounts. It takes, I think, about 11 days at the parks anyway, to earn your money back or to make the annual pass worth it. But with discounts and all that, it may actually make it worth it much, much quicker. So we're going to check that out. Today we're leaving out in the Maverick. The RV takes a little longer to get there because you can't drive quite as fast because you can only tow this at 65 miles an hour. The Ram needs a repair. It would be more spacious. It would be a nicer ride. Somebody could crash in the back seat. It's like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, 4:30, something like that. But we're taking the Maverick, the smallest vehicle that we have at the moment, aside from my stepson's car. So it's not going to be the most pleasant ride down there. It's about 10 hours from Nashville with stops, probably about 11 or 12 hours. And we're looking forward to the trip. So we'll let you know how it goes, and I'll give you more information as it comes in. We made our first trip in September of 2024. With the first trip that we took to Disney, we stayed at Coronado Springs Resort. You get discounts at hotels, you get discounts at dine-in, advanced dining reservations, sit-down restaurants, whatever you want to call them. So we'll talk about that. Our very first sit-down restaurant was at 50's Primetime Diner over at Hollywood Studios. And we saved 10%. $5 right there. Cool. $5, not that big a deal. When we checked into our hotel, or actually when we booked our hotel rather, we found that we had a 30% discount, saving us $95. So we've already saved $100 from our annual pass. Other things that you can do is you can get discounts at shops, not like fast dining, not casual dining, but like stores, merchandise stores. So that works in a couple of ways because say you're thirsty and you want to get a bottle of water or a Coke or something like that. Rather than going to a restaurant, you go over to the merchandise store, you buy a bottle there, you've got a lid, you can pack it up, put it on, take it on the ride. You don't have to worry about finishing it quickly because you don't have a lid or you don't have any way to store it. And you'll save 10%. So we didn't do that because we did bring drinks with us because you can bring in outside food and drinks to the Disney parks, which is great. It can save you a ton of money. You can even leave the park if you're driving in and you're parking in the parking lot, leave the park, go out to the ticketing and transportation center and have yourself a little picnic right there at your car or truck or whatever you drive. So you can save money that way. But we're looking at what we can do with the annual pass. And so this is trip number 1. We've already saved $100 on top of the park entry. And we've got another trip planned in December where we're going to be there for about 7 days. And I'll talk to you about that one a little bit. And now it looks like my wife is looking at January and we've possibly got summer. We have not completely decided, but we do already have our reservations. Now, what I did notice is that so far looking for accommodations, Fort Wilderness never offers a discount for the annual pass holders. Now, if you have a different experience with that, please let me know in the comments below because I would like to know when to look for those and what times that they're actually offered. So that's it for this segment. We're going to come back in. Again, we've already saved $100. We're going to add this all up and we're going to see if these annual passes are worth it for out-of-state residents because that's the most expensive tier. So we paid $1,400 for the ticket. We have to use it at least 10 times in the park. But what if you can't get there 10 days? If you're normal and you have a normal American vacation, you've typically got 10 days that you can spend somewhere. So it might be worth it just with that. But if you're like us, where we don't have a full 2 weeks that we can take off at one time, you're trying to piece it together and make sure it's worth it. And that's what we're doing here. So stay tuned. Here comes the next segment.
Ho, 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 ho! Merry!
We had a last minute trip, folks. I walked into the room. My wife got home early from work on Friday. I don't work Friday. She said, pack your bags. Once I got past the initial thought of, oh crap, what did I do? Why is she throwing me out? I realized she meant we were going on a trip. I asked her where, knowing full well where. She said Disney, so I packed and we took off. We did stay offsite on this trip, so no discounts on hotels there. Now we're up to 4 days. I know earlier in the video I said it was 2 days at the park, but I was counting hours, not entry. And I was reminded that when you're talking about the annual pass or any kind of entry, you're talking about ticket prices and getting into the park, not how much time you've spent at the park. So I was a little bit wrong with there. We've already done 3 days. Back in September, we did Friday evening when we got there late, spent like 3 hours at Epcot. Then we did Magic Kingdom and Hollywood Studios the next day. And then before we left on Sunday, we spent about 2 or 3 hours in Animal Kingdom. So that is 3 days. We got here, or we got to Orlando on Saturday morning, hit Hollywood Studios, then went over to Magic Kingdom via Fort Wilderness. There's some restrooms over by the buses at Hollywood Studios. We walked out and there was a Fort Wilderness bus right there. The bus to Magic Kingdom was way over on the other side and it had just left. And we kind of liked the boat ride from Fort Wilderness to Magic Kingdom anyway. So we went there. Now, while we were there at Fort Wilderness, we, on a whim, walked into one of the stores, and this backpack that my wife has been looking for 3 years just happened to be there. So there's another discount that was, I believe, $7 off of that. We didn't do any advanced dining reservations or anything of that nature, simply because we weren't there long enough to make those plans. And it was such a last minute trip. We actually had to move some stuff around so that we could make the reservation to even get into the park. As annual pass holders, it is very important to note that you still need reservations, even though for regular ticket holders, you no longer need that. So make sure you're making reservations before you go. That is one minor drawback of the annual pass that I've found so far. So right before we left, we got in the mail a bunch of little cards. These cards right here. You can see these are colorful little stencils for baking. And then on the back, that's Tiana. On the back, you've got beignets. You've got Tres Leches cake for Coco, sugar cookies for Alice in Wonderland. And there's one with Incredibles Jack on there. And I left that in the other room, and I don't want to go get it, so I don't know what's on there. But we're up to 4 days entry. We need, remember I said between 9 and 11, depending on surge pricing and things like that, to break even on that. We do have the Christmas trip coming up. That's going to be 3 more days. That'll put us up to 7. We have something planned in January. That'll put us up to that 9. So that means when we go in the summer, our park entry will basically be free. Now we're still getting discounts on advanced dining. We're still getting discounts at merchandise locations like we got on the Fort Wilderness backpack. And yeah, so when you take into consideration all of the perks and all that, so far it seems like it's going to be worth it, but I still want to do some more research on this. We've got these tickets until September, and we are planning on making another return trip in September just before they expire to celebrate our anniversary there as well. So far, it really depends on you. If you are the type of person that will just be like, hey, I had a bad day at work, let's go to Disney, and you're close enough to do that, we're kind of on the border of close enough, I think, because it is 10 hours by map, but 12 hours actual driving, because you got to think you're going to stop for gas, you're going to have to stop for restrooms, food, things like that. Because 10 hours in a car, you're going to want to get out. So if you're further than X number of hours away, it may not be worth it to you. But I think the important thing here and the deciding factor is going to be those discounts. Because so far, as I said, with our last trip in September, we saved $105. $100 on the hotel, $5 on an advanced dining restaurant. This trip, we had no ADRs. We had very little in the way of merchandise. So, and we stayed off site. So we only saved $7 on merchandise, but that puts us up to $112 right now that we have saved just by having the annual passes. And again, we have Christmas coming up. So now with the annual passes, we have done our trip in September where we went into the park for 3 days. We did our trip in November where we went into the park for 2 days. That's already 5 days. Now we did our Christmas trip. Now we were only planning on being in the park for 3 days. We got there probably about 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock on the 26th. And since my daughter and her boyfriend weren't there yet, my wife, my stepdaughter, and I went to Magic Kingdom to activate her annual pass. And while we were there, we figured we'd go in. Wait times were really long, so we really didn't do much. I think we did Tiki Room, and I'm not sure if we did Carousel of Progress that day or not. And then we had to leave to go meet my daughter. So there's 6 days. Then we had our 2 regular park days. Now we're at 8. We had a day off. During our day off, we went to Epcot and Hollywood Studios. We went to Hollywood Studios for dinner, but we still entered the park. So now we're at our 9 days, and then we had 1 more day left. And guess what? We hit our 10 days. Now we are making money off of the annual pass. Well, not making money, but rather saving money. Now with those discounts, and I lost track of the discounts on this trip because we had discounts at several dining options. So sit-down dining, advanced dining reservation, not quick service. We had for souvenir buys over at World of Disney, at Disney Springs, at Frontera Cucina, at, the Brown Derby, at Hollywood, not Hollywood, but at 50s Primetime. So all these places we were getting our discounts. I lost track of how much discounts we had because people were buying souvenirs and I'm showing my annual pass, which, by the way, quick tip for that, take a screenshot of that annual pass and save it to your lock screen. That way you don't have to dig around for it and try to find it every time you go to check out somewhere. The people behind you will really appreciate that you just hit that button, it flashes up, see the expiration date, they let you go. That does not work for Disneyland. They actually have to scan it. So I don't know if the screenshot works there, but somebody told me that it did not. I don't see why it wouldn't, but I guess they see that it is a screenshot and they don't really accept it. Disney World, they just want to see that expiration date, and it worked out great. So now I've lost track. We've got a weekend trip coming up at the end of January, and these are basically going to be free entry into the park because we've already earned, or we've already paid for our annual pass. So now any trip going forward, we're actually making money. So the annual passes to us were worth it. $1,400 by the time this video comes out. They raised the prices in October, so we bought ours in September. So I think they're up to $1,500 now. I'm not really sure. But if you go enough and you're using those discounts, it will end up paying for itself over a period of time. As I said, usually about 9.5, 10 days into the park pays for your annual pass itself. When you add those discounts in there, you're really starting to earn back your money in savings. So that's where we're at right now. So for us, totally worth it. They're good until September. We have a summer trip planned. We have a September trip planned for anniversary. And then of course we're going to get, just on a whim go, hey, let's go to Disney World. So we're going to do those. So for us, totally worth it. And I think for you, if you plan ahead and you think about things that you're doing, how often you're going to go, it'll be totally worth it for you too, if you go often enough. If you're only going 1 vacation a year, it may not be worth it unless you live in Florida or live close enough to where you can go all the time. Hope this gives you a little bit of information and helps you in your decision whether or not to buy an annual pass. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share the video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you down the road.
Let's hit the road.